Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Had the Power to Control Vectors, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The events leading up to Naruto getting his new power were not as exciting and epic as one would have expected. Walking was the majority of it, with Naruto leading, Fu and Hanabi close behind, and Suigetsu farther back fondling his new sword. "We're here," Naruto said. "What do you mean there's nothing here?" Suigetsu said, looking around at a place that looked the same as every other place they'd passed for the last hour. "It's underground, genius," Fu said. "Hanabi, use your Byakugan to find where the statue is exactly," Naruto said, ignoring Suigetsu's comment. Hanabi instantly did as Naruto asked and looked around. After a while of looking, she admitted with a disappointed look that she couldn't find anything. "See, told you there's nothing here," Suigetsu sneered. "It's here all right, I know it is. There must be hiding its chakra with seals," Naruto said, then thought from a moment. If the chakra's hidden, it must be some kind of seal that affects the way chakra is seen. "Suigetsu, flood this whole area. Hanabi, tell me if you see any difference in the chakra that's in the water at a certain place." "Got it," Hanabi replied. "Wait, let me do it," Fu yelled, butting into Suigetsu just as he was about ready to do his jutsu. "I don't care who does it, I just want it done," Naruto said, knowing full well why Fu was trying to make herself useful. Fu did a little hop of happiness before shooting a wave of water from her mouth in all directions. Suigetsu could have done it better, but it would serve its purpose. "There," Hanabi said, pointing to an area close to Naruto, "the chakra there is warped somehow." Naruto smiled as he walked over to where Hanabi pointed. "Here?" Naruto asked, and Hanabi nodded. Naruto brought his foot down and the ground below it collapsed, draining all the water into it. The rest of them crowded around the hole that Naruto had fell in. "You okay?" Fu shouted. "I'm more than okay, we've found it," Naruto yelled back. Taking that as their cue, the three of them jumped down to where Naruto was. When they got down, they saw what they had been looking for. The ceiling statue was big and off-putting, but Naruto walked right up and touched it without missing a beat. "Oh yeah, I can feel it. The chakra of all the sealed beasts just waiting to be taken." "You still haven't told us what exactly you're going to do with that chakra. Are you trying to become a Jinchuriki?" Suigetsu asked. "No, that's not it at all. In fact, it being demonic chakra makes no difference at all. In fact, it might even be a little bit harder to use than normal chakra," Naruto said, pressing both palms to the statue. Why did we go through all this trouble?" Suigetsu yelled. "Because I needed a huge amount of chakra, and luckily for me the Akatsuki just happened to be collecting. I wanted the 9 and 8 tails to be included, but even with their absence I should still have more than enough chakra." "But you can't just take in chakra like that," Fu said, looking at Naruto with worry. "Even if you can use your vectors to store that chakra in your body, your chakra coils don't get any bigger, so how will you hold that much chakra? Did you that matter is made up of mostly just empty space? If the entire human population was condensed so there was no empty space, they could fit inside a cube of sugar," Naruto said. "Chakra is the same, just energy with partials and a lot of space in between them. Now normally no matter how hard you tried you could not push partials closer together. But if you can control vectors no matter how small, it becomes a simple progress. Not only will I have a huge chakra reserve, I'll also have the densest chakra in the world. This doesn't just allow me to store this massive amount of chakra in my body, it also gives my chakra a noticeable weight without any modifications." "How does that help you?" Suigetsu asked. "It would be a pain to explain, so you just have to wait for the demonstration," Naruto said, turning his focus onto the statue. He used his vectors to pull the chakra out and into his body. The only noticeable effect that could be seen to an outsider was the dark glow, which must have been condensed chakra, flowing into Naruto's hands. Now the effects of what Naruto had done could be seen by all. It was hard to tell for anyone who didn't have a Byakugan or any other sort of chakra sensing power, but the wings that had grown from Naruto's back were nothing more than incredibly dense chakra. The chakra that made up the dome around was regular chakra that had been dispersed by the wings. Although anyone without a Byakugan or Sharingan would not be able to tell where the dome was. Now let me show you what your mercy gets when dealing with a god. Instantly anyone that was in the dome of chakra that Naruto created was killed. Blood rushing out their eyes and mouth as their blood flow had been reversed. Then wings flew at anyone who was just outside the dome at insane speeds. Some ninja were beheaded and some had their stomachs ripped out. The plan that the Alliance had devised to not attack until Naruto's reflection was down fell into panic. Kunais flew at Naruto. They were not reflected immediately when they hit Naruto's chakra. They made it a little ways into the dome before Naruto simply shifted his eyes a little and the kunais were sent back at triple the original speed. Naruto was no longer using his automatic reflection. It may have seemed like a very stupid thing to do to most people, but to Naruto it only increased his power. The only reason his chakra was set to reflect things automatically was because when an object touched his chakras it was already too close for Naruto to do the calculations on his own. But now since his chakra was a fair bit away from him he could take the time to calculate what he wanted to do with every object that entered his chakra. It was no longer limited to returning the object at the same speed it was shoot. Naruto was not at all worried about doing the calculations himself either. Even if every ninja in the world threw 100 kunais at him at the same time he would still be able to calculate a new path for every single one of them. Surprise attacks wouldn't work either since even if he couldn't see it his chakra would pick up something coming from behind him. In a matter of seconds every ninja that had been in close range of Naruto was killed. The remaining made a defensive line around a bit away from Naruto. Naruto, however, was not even close to showing his full power. He stomped on the ground and hundreds of thousands of pebbles flew up around. The Alliance was only given a brief second to figure out what was going on. Those who didn't were torn to shreds as a carpet bomb of pebbles blasted the whole area. It had only been 30 seconds since Naruto had brought out those wings and 1/3 of the Alliance had already been wiped out. Don't hesitate, Minato screamed. Stick to the plan, nothing's changed expected for the area we can target. One ninja seemed to take Minato's words to heart and step up to the tip of Naruto dome, or at least where he thought it was. It was far closer than any other ninja dared to be and people took note. Naruto watched too as the ninja absorbed some of Naruto's chakra and shot it back at him. Of course Naruto would not have just stood there and watched if the Alliance's desired effect would be produced. Instead Naruto's dome stayed exactly how it. You idiot, Naruto said taking one step forward, my chakra is now a mixture of 2 different chakras, technically a mix of 8. That won't work anymore. And with a simply flick of his hand the poor ninja was sent into the sky with such speed that the friction caused him to turn into a burning ball. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Naruto said with a smile, not the insane smile he usually gave, but a real smile that made it seem like he was a kid that had just been given used toys. He clasped his hands together and wind began to move towards him. The people who knew what he was doing were truly terrified, but compared to what it was before this was hundreds of times worse, literally. Hundreds of plasmas were being created around Naruto and when they were finished they formed a ring at the edge of Naruto's chakra, so they wouldn't be weakened from leaving it. Then they started spinning faster and faster until the individual balls could no longer be seen. It was now just a spinning ring of light, that some may say looked like a halo. The halo was not a sigh of good fortune, however. It was a sigh of death and destruction. It seemed wrong that it would glow white, it should have been as black as Naruto's wings. Naruto took a couple steps towards the Alliance, going very slowly. The halo nicked a tree and the tree exploded so violently that a crater was left in its place. Then Naruto's slow walk turned into a bullet of death as he used his wings to fly just above the ground. The halo torn through everything, humans being no expectation, any that were able to avoid the halo were just as easily crushed by Nightmare's wings. Gaara in a vain attempt to stop Naruto brought a sand wall up between him and his halo, but the wings could be said to be stronger than the halo. The sand was sliced through without even slowing Naruto down. The sand, however, did have an effect on Naruto. It made him change his course directly towards Gaara. His sand barrier was just as useless against the halo as it was against the wings. Gaara tried to dodge out of the way, but a black wing caught him, wrapping itself around Gaara's body and lifting him into the air. Naruto didn't stop to brag about how he was about to kill a cage. That was not an achievement when Naruto was at this level. The wing crushed Gaara's body, creating a blood rain. It was not all that different from a sand burial. If it wasn't obvious before then, it was clear now that the alliance was way out of its league. It was like a group of kids armed with sticks that had decided to fight a cage. There was no way for them to win. The cage would crush them. The only hope the kids had were if the cage was nice and would let them go for their naivety. Naruto was not so forgiving. This time it was Tsunade to feel the full force of a god. Naruto, without saying a word, shot his halo outside of his dome. The plasma would start to break down immediately, but his speed was insane, leaps and bounds faster than what Naruto had done at the lake. Long before the halo lowered to a non-fatal level, it made contact with Tsunade and cut her in half, although with about 15 other ninja. It had now been 2 minutes since the wings had appeared. 2/3 of the alliance had been killed. The kids fighting the cage analogy had been wrong. It wasn't even close to that. At least with that scenario, the kids had a 1 in 1 billion hope that they might be able to touch the cage with a stick. But that would not happen with this battle. It was more like an army of ants trying to attack the god of pest control. At that point, it's beyond stupid to believe that the fight will result in anything less than absolute slaughter for the ants. Onoki flew above Naruto and started his atomic dismantling jutsu. His aim was to destroy one of Naruto's wings. A white box engulfed one of the wings and it looked like it might have worked, but just as the just was activated, the wing blew apart to avoid it. It wasn't that the whole wing came apart, it was just the section that would have been hit by the jutsu. There now was thousands of what might be called feathers if it wasn't for the fact that they looked like thin black spicks. And every single one of they were shot at the old man. Just like the wings themselves, no defense seemed effective enough to stop them. When Onoki was efficiently skewered, the feathers returned to reform that section of the wing, leaving it to look like nothing had happened. This is ridiculous, a leaf ninja said, trembling with fury. We can't fight this. We're all going to die. He screamed before dropping his weapon and running off. He wasn't the only one either. Quite a few ninja were backing away from Naruto, just waiting for the right time to run away. Don't lose hope, Minima yelled, turning to face the crowd. He might be strong, but he's not invincible. You know you should turn your back on your enemy, especially when they really are invincible. A voice said from right behind her. Minima turned around, sweat already dripping down her face. Naruto had landed behind her as she had been giving her brief encouragement. She was already too far in the dome to be able to run out, and the look in Naruto's eyes told her that he was going to kill her. Minato saw this also and teleported to Minima with the seal he had placed on her. Minima felt something grab her and then she was immediately teleported outside the dome next to Kushina. Minima breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Thanks to San, but when she looked over she saw Minato with blood dripping from his eyes and mouth just before he slid down Minima's body and collapsed onto the ground. To San. Minima screamed as she bent down to check for a heartbeat. There wasn't one. What do you know? Naruto said, not at all concerned by the fact he had just killed his own father. Even when I reversed his blood flow, he still held on long enough to teleport you out. I didn't know that could happen. Minima grinding her teeth and had the glare of death trained on Naruto. She got up and started walking. Naruto just watched with his head titled and a smug grin on his face. Minima was going to kill him. He was a monster that didn't give a damn about anyone else. She was going to rip that smug look off his face. But as she got closer, her glare loosened and her fear grew. She couldn't kill him. He was a monster. No one could rip that smug look off his face. Minima stopped walking long before so got to Naruto. The fact was she was too scared. That's what I thought, Naruto said. His wings lifted straight up into the sky. They stayed there a few seconds and all anyone could do was admire the horrible sight. The way they were positioned blocked out the sun, so light was only able to come from the sides, making Naruto look like some demonic angel. Then they came down. The ground split and trees were uprooted as the shock ravaged the entire ground. Even the best ninja found themselves unbalanced. Naruto wasn't affected, and by the time the alliance got their footing, Naruto was ready for round 2. Everyone! A yelled, startling everyone, even Naruto. They all looked to what he was going to say. He had the look of a man who was having an inner conflict. His face seemed to be fighting itself. He obviously didn't want to say these words but knew he had to. Retreat. No one even thought about denying that order. Everyone ran off, leaving that monster behind. Naruto watched them leave with little enjoyment. He could chase after them, but his plan had been fulfilled. The Alliance would realize their mistake and come back with their head bowed to the ground, begging him to not destroy their villages. The black wing slowly faded away as Naruto walked around the body-filled field to look for Suigetsu swords. Once Naruto had created his wings, the battle had lasted 3 minutes and 57 seconds. He averaged a kill every 2 seconds and came just shy of killing 1 kage per minute. It was truly devastating for the Alliance, but they had brought it upon themselves. Meanwhile, a fair distance away from the disaster, Naruto was panting, having used up all the strength in her legs to get this far. Most of the other ninja were in the same state, but not even pure exhaustion could keep people from talking. Did you see those wings? How coarse we did, you idiot. How many people do you think we've lost because of them? He took out the Tsuchikage like it was nothing. Is he some sort of god? No one should be that strong. Naruto was getting irritated by all the talking. Her emotions were running wild about what to do with Naruto. Naruto killed Minato, that fact was clear, but Minato had still believed in Naruto when he was almost killed fighting for the Three Tails. Should she still trying to bring Naruto back because that's what Minato would have wanted, or should she finally give in and write Naruto off as a monster? Naruto didn't know, but the chatter didn't help, so she shouted something that she had always believed. You all need to shut up. We're still alive. We can still fight. Naruto isn't invincible. We can beat him once we regroup and gather a strongest ninja. Everyone turned towards Naruto just like they had during her speech at the Three Tails fight, but unlike last time, she did not fill them with hope and determination. Instead, you want to see her best well head back to where we came from because they're all over there. There is no way that he can be beaten by just a little regrouping. If he wanted to, he could stroll right up to Kumo and no one could stop him. Beat him. Beat him. We would have been lucky if he even looked at us like a threat. On and on they went about how it was impossible to beat Naruto, and no one put of any opposition, not the Kages, not Kushina, not even Minima, who Minato died trying to protect. It was Jiraiya who finally put an end to their squabble. Listen, no matter what is said here, no resolution will be reached. I suggest we all go back to our home village, then have a meeting to discuss what should be done next. After all, Jiraiya said, his voice taking on a very sad tone, we along with Suna and Iwa have to elect a new Kage to even take part in this meeting. Everyone seemed to agree, but no real words were said. Everyone just got on their feet and hobbled away in the direction of their home village. It was a depressing sight. The threat of Naruto coming to attack them was not zero, so maybe they should have up a little more effort in leaving like an actual ninja force, but then again, why did it matter? There was no defense they could put up to stop Naruto, so why even try? No one even thought about going back for the bodies. When the Leaf Ninja returned, everyone was ready to congratulate them, but the mood surrounding filled their senses with defeat. How had this happened? It was one guy against the world, and yet he not only beat the world, he crushed it. The election took place soon after, with half-hearted voters coming up to vote for Jiraiya, who won with no opposition. Jiraiya, the man who had avoided taking the Hokage's office all this time, sat in Minato's chair with no complaints. Iwa and Suna also chose new leaders, but Suna didn't have anyone really ready to take the seat, and it was already under debate if Suna should be replaced with Taki as a major village. Iwa, on the other hand, wasn't that bad off when it came to leadership. Let's be honest, Onoki had already been heading to the grave, and more than a few people had been ready to take his spot. Jiraiya's first order of business was to assess how much damage had actually been caused by Naruto's slaughter. A group was set out to collect the bodies, and a shocking discovery was made. Sasuke Uchiha had been killed and no one had noticed, not even after the fact. If anything else, it showed just how many legends Naruto had killed that day that made something like the death of Sasuke Uchiha go unnoticed. There was still a handful of Uchihas left, but they were all far too young to take control of the Uchiha compound. It was eventually destined it would be left for an Uchiha who could later prove himself. Meanwhile, as the days passed, the more pressing issues hovered over everyone's head. What was to be done about Naruto? A meeting would be taking place in Kumo very soon, but it was almost a given that the meeting would never be able to put a force together that could beat Naruto, so what was going to happen? Naruto thought about this a lot as she sat in her room doing nothing particular. It wasn't so long ago that Jiraiya had sent her to the Toads to learn the Sage Mode. The idea behind it was that Naruto wouldn't know about that vector and thus Naruto would be able to hit him, but she didn't get the chance to use it. It didn't matter anymore either, even if Naruto didn't know the vector behind Sage Mode, which would kept him from altering her direction or reflecting her, he still knew how blood flow work. It wasn't a big deal before. All Naruto would have to do was be careful and keep her distance, but now the minute she stepped into that dome she'd be killed. But there had to be a way, there just had to. Mito had heard the news even in her cell. Looks like that fairy tale ending would never come about. Naruto was a god now, an unbeatable force. What do you think will happen? Mito asked Kabuto, as much as she hated to, but Mito had to admit Kabuto was way smarter than her. This meeting that they're holding is only propaganda that makes it seem to the average citizen that they still have some sort of control over Naruto. The real purpose of the meeting will be coming up with a plan that will convince Naruto to not walk up and destroy the ninja world. The only problem is that they don't know what to give him. What are you talking about? Mito asked. We all know that Naruto wanted to become a god, but now that's done, that what does he want? The Alliance needs to figure this out because they don't have a power advantage anymore. It's obvious what Naruto wants, Mito said. And what's that? Kabuto asked, showing a mild curiosity. He wants peace. Ninja won't stop fighting each other even if they were threatened to stop by Naruto's all-destroying power. The system has been around too long. If ninjas stopped fighting, the economy of all the major villages would collapse, which would lead to even more sadness and despair than a fourth great ninja war would. I wasn't talking about world peace. As much as I love Naruto, he isn't that nice. He just wants peace for himself, and I guess the people in his group. Mito said, bringing her knees up to her chest, thinking about how she could have been in that group. Kabuto thought about it for a little bit before giving his own reasoning. I see that isn't impossible with how strong Naruto is now. People will give in to their fear more than their anger and won't attack Naruto. That must be why he calls himself a god, but Naruto has probably already acquired his peace with his most recent display. The Alliance can't do anything in that regard, so they'll have to find something else. Luckily for them, if Naruto really only wants peace for himself, he'll be willing to make a deal with the Alliance, and no matter how outrageous the demands get, they'll give it to him. The meeting took place in Kumo, although it was less like a meeting and more of an inventory check. What if we offer him a squad made up of our best ninjas to protect him? The new Kage of Suna said. You idiot, Naruto doesn't need protection. He's way too powerful, and what would they even protect him from? There's not a person left in the world who would think about attacking him. I said, begrudging as it was humiliating to a part of this meeting. Then what else can we do? We can't let him walk into any village he pleases, he'll level the place. The Kage yelled back. Naruto isn't just going to start taking tours of our villages. I bet he won't even step foot in one of the major villages. I said, being the only one in the room who still thought Naruto might still see the Alliance as a threat, even if it was a very, very small threat. Then there was a knock on the door and I ushered his secretary in. Mr. Rakage, Naruto Namikaze and his friends have just entered the village. I could hear the other Kages snickering at him, but he chose to ignore them to keep his pride intact. What is he doing? I asked, not being able to dismiss the thought that Naruto had come to level Kumo and kill the Kages he missed. Right now he's not doing anything. He's just walking around, although it looks like he's making his way here. The secretary said. All the Kages looked at each other. What should we do? May asked. As long as he doesn't do anything, we should just wait here, but if he tries to attack Kumo, we'll have no choice to attack him. Jiraiya said. I agree, the Kazekage said, looking at his feet, obviously terrified of the thought that he may have to fight Naruto. The other Kages were better at hiding it, but they too prayed that Naruto was just here to make his demands. Meanwhile, out in the village, Naruto was getting the welcome he had expected. Ninja and citizens were crowding the sides of the streets just to get a look at the man who had defeated the entire Alliance. They knew full well that Naruto could kill them, but that wouldn't stop them from watching. Most of the ninja had a look of pure hatred in their eyes, but they had accepted that Naruto was too strong for them to do anything. They would shift their eyes from Naruto to the group behind him, thinking that maybe they could get to Naruto by killing his friends, but they would quickly realize that too was an impossible task with Naruto right there. The group behind Naruto was taking the welcome in their own way. Fu was partially clinging to Naruto's back, and surly would have been if it wasn't for his reflection, as the people gave them their hate. It probably reminded her of the looks she got in Taki. Hanabi had a lot more control of herself, but she was still nervous. Sugetsu, on the other hand, loved the attention. He returned each glare with one of his own and at one point it even growled, showing off his sharp teeth. They made it to the place where the cages were having their meeting and the guards didn't even attempt to stop them. Naruto walked right past the secretary, although the rest of the group decided to wait in the lobby while Naruto took care of business. Naruto walked into the meeting room and all the cages looked at him, trying to dissect his mind for what he was doing there. "Hell Lou, I'm so glad that you all had the time to see me," Naruto said with a big smile and a happy-go-lucky voice. "I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll get right down to business. I would like each of you to give me 1% of your village's revenue." It took about 2 seconds for Naruto's demand to sink in. 1%? Are you fucking insane? Mei yelled. The other cages stiffened, thinking that Naruto would blow the room sky high, but instead he just answered politely. "I think you're overreacting, it's just 1%. It might only be 1%, but it's 1% of the world's 5 largest economies that was used to fund whole sites, not one person. Even having 1% of just one of the major villages would make them rich, but all 5 would give them almost unlimited funds." "I'll agree," Jiraiya said, startling everyone. "I'm glad you see it my way," Naruto said. Jiraiya's words started a chain reaction and the other cages started to really think about it. And it didn't take much thought to realize that they didn't have much of a choice. They all agreed to Naruto's terms in the end. 1% wouldn't kill their economy, but having an enemy like Naruto certainly could. That's how powerful Naruto had become. He never once mentioned why the cages should give him this money. He didn't threaten them. He simply told them that he wanted it, and that was enough of a reason to pay up. "Thank you for your cooperation," Naruto said after he had been given a huge sum of money to start out with. "Every time you need to pay up, just send it to my house. I'll send an address once it's built." Then Naruto Namikaze, the richest and strongest person in the world, got up and left. Mito was awoken by a strange sound. It was like the pooping sound an airtight container would make when the lid was suddenly removed. Outside her cell was a life form that she had really hoped she never see again. "Well, isn't this interesting?" Kabuto said to the being that Mito would refuse to think of as a person. "The Alliance sure can be mean. Naruto this, Naruto that, Naruto the only surviving member of the Akatsuki. Why did they all forget about us?" Zetsu said, sounding like a child who lost out on the last cookie to his older brother. "You idiot, that's a good thing. If they forgot about us, then we can move freely. It still makes me sad. If you don't mind me asking, what are you two, or is it one, doing here?" Kabuto asked, but the smile on his face told Mito that he already had a pretty good idea. "We need your help, Kabuto-sensei," White Zetsu pleaded, and would have gotten down on his knees if he wasn't attached to Black Zetsu. "We do acquire your assistance with that special skill of yours." "That's great. It's been a while, so I thought that leak about my skill wouldn't catch any fish, but it looks like I just had to be patient," Kabuto said as Zetsu phased into the ground and then phased out behind him. "Well, we certainly bit," Zetsu said before warping his arms around Kabuto's waist and phased them both into the ground. Mito watched it all without saying a word. There was no point. Even if every ninja in Konoha came running to the sound of her voice, Zetsu still would have escaped with Kabuto. But what did Zetsu want with Kabuto? Mito could only assume it had something to do with the now destroyed Akatsuki. It was probably some sort of revenge against Naruto, but whatever it was, Naruto could handle it. Mito thought as she went back to sleep, very sure of that thought. Konoha could discover their missing prisoner in the morning. How long had it been? The calendar said 3 months, but it sure didn't feel like it. When the Alliance surrendered to Naruto, everyone held their breath, fearful of what would happen next. What would the land's newfound god do? The answer: nothing. Naruto didn't go on daily massacres like people thought he would. He didn't go out and kill all the dangerous missing nins and bandits as a punishment. He did none of that, and because he did nothing, he became more godlike. Soon people just thought of him as a legend. Someone who had the power to kill them all, but wouldn't as it, so they had nothing to fear as long as they didn't try to challenge him. He was always in people's mind but not their actions. Just like a true god. Naruto realized just how sturdy the world was. It only took a month for everything to return to the way it was after Naruto stepped off the main stage. The alliance broke up almost immediately after Naruto left Kumo. The main issue was if Suna should still be allowed to counting as a major village. The villages were split and once again became their own separate entities, the only link between them being the money they owed to Naruto each month. Bandit camps started popping back up at the usual rate since fear of accidentally turning down a one-way road had been passed. The world moved on. Naruto was nothing more than a story and he would stay that way unless he destined to return to the world. There were, however, two places where Naruto was still very real and would remind people that he was still the strongest. One of these places was a simple white page in the very back of a certain black book. It read, Naruto Namikaze is the only person to ever achieve God class. He is extremely dangerous and should be avoided at all costs. There is no bounty on his head, so going after him is pointless. If you are unfortunate enough to meet him, do not attack. He has no known weaknesses, in his wing form, and has enough firepower to wipe out all 5 of the great ninja villages. The suggested course of action is to reason with him and do anything he asks. It was just a brief paragraph, but it was sure to stick fear into any academy brat who was thinking about taking down the best. The only other place could also be found on that page. It was Naruto's address. Naruto had built a house. It was more like a mansion, where his first true home was, the Land of Frost. Why anyone would want to go there after reading the passage was beyond Naruto, but it was there, probably to let people know where they shouldn't ever go. Naruto, dinner's ready, Kushina shouted. Naruto put the bingo book down on her dresser and headed downstairs. Minima was already at the table and Mito was just walking in. The one good thing about the alliance breaking up was the fact that other villages lost a lot of their influence in the Leaf. They would have to spend a lot of time, any money to try and get Mito executed, and it just wasn't worth it. Mito was left in the hands of the Leaf. Mito was soon released on Jiraiya's orders since she never committed any huge crimes against the Leaf. Anyone who tried to bring up her part in the invasion was persuaded by a certain red-headed widow to not, so that issues was conveniently never brought up. Her release forced her to live in the Namikaze mansion and she still had to wear chakra seals until she could prove trustworthy. Having Mito back was probably the best thing that could have happened to Kushina since she could forces all her attention on her daughter than the loss of her husband. At first Kushina was terrified that Mito would run back to Naruto the first chance she got and the whole thing would start her over again. But it soon became clear that Mito had no intention to go back to Naruto. She seemed more afraid of seeing Naruto than the cages were. It was understandable. Naruto was not likely to be happy to see the person who betrayed him. Mito was still detached from the real family, but due to constant attention and Naruto's endless attempts to make amends, Mito was slowly growing back in. Everyone sat at the table eating Kushina home-cooked meal and were having small talk, including Mito. It was almost like they were a normal family. Minima would have been happy staying like this, and given time Mito was sure to accept this family over Naruto. It might not been the exact happy ending they had all been hoping for, but it was good enough. But good enough hadn't been what Kushina was shooting for. Girls, tomorrow I'll be heading out on a mission, Kushina said as if she was just another piece of small talk. What's it going to be? Minima asked. I asked to be the one to deliver Naruto his money this month, Kushina said. Naruto choked on her food and had to pound her stomach to breath. Why would you do that? It's just something I have to do, Kushina said. He won't come back to the Leaf, Minima said. I know, but I just need to talk to him. I need to learn who my son really is, Kushina said, tears leaking out the side of her eyes. Mito didn't say anything. She knew exactly what Kushina was thinking. It would be hard to face Naruto, especially after he killed Minato, but as Kushina said, she had to. Mito knew she had to too, but she wasn't brave enough, and honestly Mito didn't think she'd ever be. Slowly Naruto and Minima realized this too. Just be careful, Minima said. I will. Later that night Naruto laid awake in her bed looking at Naruto's page in the bingo book as she often did. There was no special reason that Naruto did this. The story seemed to have already reached its conclusion. Naruto was the strongest, he had achieved his goals and everyone else was able to go back to business. The best thing to do was to put it down and be happy with the ending you got, but Naruto just couldn't let it die. even if what she had now was better than could have been realizably expected given the situation. Naruto had thought she would be happy with this ending, but when Kushina announced that she was going to see Naruto, Naruto realized something. This wasn't the ending she wanted. Naruto wanted to go too, but now wasn't the time. There was always a chance that Kushina's and Naruto's meeting could change the story's ending, but it seemed unlikely. It might have sounded like Naruto hadn't changed at all from the spoiled brat she used to be, but this bittersweet ending was unacceptable to her. Why did everyone who worked so hard to get their happy ending be forced to accept this ending where Naruto was the only truly happy one? Naruto must have been insane for thinking this, but she believed the happy ending she had promised Mito back in her cell was still possible, but it could never be achieved as long as Naruto's ending still stood. Naruto's ending had to be knocked down. Naruto was probably the only person in the world to even think about challenging Naruto at this point, and for what a stupid reason. Even if she was able to beat Naruto and destroy his ending, it was almost granted to be an even worse ending. Naruto wouldn't be allowed to just come and live with them like Mito had been, he'd be executed, but just like how the gate guards of the villages knew that the Akatsuki would attack that fateful day, Naruto knew that if Naruto's ending was shattered quick enough, then a happier one would take its place. Kushina walked with a bag in her hand filled with enough money to buy a large house. Normally this large amount of money would never be allowed to travel with only one person, but this case was special. The chance of attack when taking this mission was almost zero, since no one from the random bandit to the greediest man in the world would dare to rob Naruto's money. It was getting cold and Kushina wished she had on more layers of clothes. She underestimated how cold it could get this time of year in the land of frost, and Naruto's mansion was far enough away from any village that it would take too much time to go out of her way to buy some. It only took a couple more minutes for Kushina to see it peek over the horizon. A structure that was built in half the time it should have taken looked out of place with all the wideness that surrounded it, but the mansion looked as much a part of the landscape as the growing trees. It was white and seemed to fall into the ground instead of rise above it, but this must have just been an illusion, as Kushina could count the windows, marking it as a two-story structure. Kushina knocked on the door. She heard the shifting of feet coming from the other side, and for a brief moment thought about leaving the money on the steps and running off. The door opened too quickly, however, for her to act on that thought. Kushina froze under Naruto's gaze, but he didn't have that piercing look when he opened the door. Kushina had frozen because she thought Naruto would have that look. Instead, he looked like a normal teenager, something that would have to be seen to believe. He was wearing a white hoodie with gray pants. His feet were bare and his red eyes, that Kushina had expected to pierce right through her, were just moving around aimlessly. "I see you've finally come," Naruto said, his words no longer lanced with the acid and arrogance it once had. "I'm here to give you your money. Can I come in?" Kushina asked. "We both know that you're not just here for that," Naruto said with a slight hint at his precious demeanor. "Come on in." Kushina walked into the house as Naruto closed the door behind her. She couldn't help but notice that Naruto didn't lock it, and she didn't recall hearing him unlock it when he opened it either. It was obvious that Naruto had not been the one to furnish the house, as the entire space gave an atmosphere of color and polish that Kushina was sure that Naruto, and most males for that matter, were incapable of doing. "Just put it over there," Naruto said, pointing to a corner of the room that had a pile similar-looking bags already in it. They all looked unopened. Naruto hopped on a light blue coach. Kushina sat across from him in a whitish-blue chair. There was a coffee table in between them that had a bottle of expense wine on it. Kushina looked at it, partially licking her lips. It had been a long journey and a drink could do her some good. Naruto seemed to have noticed her hunger and decided to play the nice host. He cracked open the bottle, pour each one of them a glass. Kushina quickly took the one she was offered. She would have drunken the whole glass in an instant, but she noticed that Naruto was just looking at his glass as he swirled the red liquid inside. Kushina briefly thought that Naruto may have spiked the wine, but that thought was gone almost as soon as it came. There was no reason for Naruto to do that. He could have easily taken Kushina down if he wanted to. "I assume you're here because you want to talk about Minato's death," Naruto said. "I do," Kushina said, putting her glass down, giving him a more Naruto-like stare than Naruto had given all night. "Shoot away," Naruto said, finally taking a small sip of his drink. "Why did you kill him?" "He tried to kill me." Don't you feel even the slightest bit guilty? No. How can you be so heartless? Naruto let out a heavy sigh of annoyance. Why is this so hard for Leaf Ninja to understand? Have then really grown so arrogant that they believe they can do no wrong? Of course not, but what you did was clearly in the wrong. Kushina said. You still don't get it. Why am I in the wrong? It's a ninja's job to kill. Naruto said. That might be so, but what you did was barbaric. All those people were ready to run away. You knew they were no threat to you right when you sprouted those wings. Yet you killed them without hesitation, not even thinking about their families or friends. Kushina said, a clear liquid falling onto Naruto's floors. This confirms it. Naruto said like he had just finished an equation to a math problem. You Leaf have grown so high and mighty that when one of your nobles are killed by us peasants you cry out, look at these barbarians, they're so evil. How many people did Minato kill in the Third Shinobi War? In fact, how many people did you kill? Naruto asked, finally giving Kushina that death stare she had been so worried about. We were at war. Kushina said, trying to defend herself. Then that makes it okay because you're the Leaf and those rock bastards attacked you. I bet when Minato massacred those people by the hundreds he didn't think about their friends and family. Yet you call him a hero while calling me a villain. The truth is I'm only in the wrong because I killed one of you, but things are different than they were before. Now the nobles aren't strong enough to take me down by force, so all they can do is cry out on how cruel the world is to them. Kushina wanted to make a defense. She was digging into every part of her mind and soul for a refute, but there was nothing. Slowly she looked towards the ground, accepting Naruto's words as truth. That's better, Naruto said. It finally dawned on at least one of the nobles that morels are made by the strongest, and it just so happens that a god is far stronger than a noble. Suddenly Naruto's piercing eyes left, as if someone had used an eraser on his face, and returned to the lazy unfocused ones from before. Is there anything else? Do you like your new life? Kushina asked. You must think I'm one of those people who can't live unless they're fighting or putting their life on the line, but that isn't me. I love these nice peaceful days, although if I have to I won't hesitate to bloody my hand to protect this life. I see, Kushina said before standing up, then hope you enjoy it because you're still my son and I want you to be happy. Naruto heard the door open and close and then there was silence, for a brief second. Wow, I didn't think we ever see that look again. A female voice called from the second floor. What can I say, the nobles just know how to irritate me. Naruto said, getting up from the couch. What are you going to do now? Fu asked. First I'm going to get something to eat, then a nice long bath. Naruto said. Clearly nothing Kushina had said had changed anything. Fu waited for Naruto to enter the kitchen. Once he was completely out of sight, Fu raced to one of the second-floor bathrooms with a very naughty plan in mind. She entered the bathroom and quietly shut the door behind her. This bathroom had a huge bathtub that could easily hold 4 to 5 people. This was Naruto's favorite place to clear his mind, so he would defiantly come here. Fu started running the water when the door to the bathroom opened. Fu was confused since Naruto should still be eating and there was no knock. Surprisingly, Sugetsu and Naruto were very good about knocking first. Fu turned around to see Hanabi shutting the door behind her. So you were watching? Fu questioned. I sure was, and I noticed you running off to the bathroom. What the hell are you doing? Hanabi said, pointing her finger angrily. I just want to take a bath with Naruto. Fu said innocently. You can't do that, Hanabi said, her fingers shaking and a hard blush on her face. Besides, Naruto would never agree. You obviously haven't been paying close enough attention to Naruto as I have these last 3 months. I can already see the scene play out. It will start with Naruto knocking on the door like a gentleman, but I won't say anything. Then Naruto, thinking no one is here, will come in and see me. Then I suggest we bathe together. Naruto will find it more of a pain to go somewhere else and trying to keep up his laid-back image will agree. But Naruto is still a teenage boy and will find himself taking glances at my body, then he'll realize what he can have and a relationship will blossom from there. You can just peek at us with your Byakugan. Fu said offhandedly. I would never do that and your plan is ridiculous. Hanabi said, her blush having turned new shades of red from Fu's plan. Then leave. If you don't think it will work, then you have nothing to worry about. Fu said, shutting off the water and then doing something unthinkable. She started stripping off her clothes. Hanabi couldn't believe what Fu was doing, but now it was clear this was a serious threat to Hanabi. Up until now Hanabi had only been doing little things like make Naruto coffee and other small things in hope Naruto would come around, but with Fu's actions it became clear that Hanabi would have to be more aggressive. I'm not going to lose to you, Hanabi said, and also started doing the unthinkable. With both of them in that state it was clear who had certain advantages, but neither one of them really knew Naruto's type, so it was still up in the air for them. The stare down continued for a good 2 minutes before a knock was heard. The girls stood perfectly still, not wanting to be heard. In a few moments Naruto would decide who was more attractive, not by his words but by his eyes. The door opened and Sugetsu peered in. It took him all of half a second to realize that there were two completely naked girls in front of him. He smiled at them with a small blush. Why hello ladies, this is unexpected. Both of the girls were blushing furiously. This isn't for you and you know that, Fu yelled as she grabbed everything in the nearby vicinity and threw it at Sugetsu. Sugetsu held his hand to his gut as he was laughing uncontrollably, the objects passing though him harmlessly. This is the best you two could come up with to seduce Naruto, Sugetsu said between laughing fits. I thought you two were rivals, didn't know you'd be willing to double team him, but I guess with Hanabi proportions she didn't have much choice. That's not what happened at all, Hanabi screamed, joining the on attacking Sugetsu with random bathroom products. Naruto walked out of the kitchen and immediately heard the commotion upstairs. Why do they have to be so loud? Naruto asked himself. Then he blocked all sound and headed for a different bathroom. Better to avoid that mess. Hello Kyubi, Naruto said inside her mindscape. It's been a long time. Why have you suddenly decided to grace me with your presence after all this years? The fox said, sarcasm dripping from his mouth. I need your help, Naruto put out plainly. And why should I help you? The Kyubi said, already feeling this conversation was a waste of time. Because I'm sure you want to defeat Naruto just as much as I do, Naruto said. The Kyubi gave a soft chuckle. If you think using my powers will help you beat that boy, then you are the dumbest container I've ever had. Are you saying you're weaker than him? Naruto said, trying to provoke the Kyubi, but then the fox did something that Naruto could hardly believe. He is stronger than me, Kyubi said. How can you admit that? Naruto shouted, missing the irony that she had been the one provoked. I thought you were the strongest being alive. Strength doesn't matter to your brother if you haven't noticed. Even if I was to give you full accesses to my cloak, like I did when you were a better you, it wouldn't matter. Naruto has already proved he knows the vectors behind demonic chakra. Besides, reversing your blood flow is more than enough to end the fight. So that's it, you're just going to give up? Naruto yelled. I don't like it any more than you do. In fact, I probably hate that brat more than you do with what he's done to my brethren, but I can be content with giving up for now. Why is that? Naruto asked. Because Naruto is not a god, not matter how much he says he is. He is only human and will die while I will live on as an immortal being, Kyubi said, sounding like it was Naruto who was giving up, not him. Fine, but just so you know I'm going to fight regardless, Naruto said. You have no chance, Kyubi said, knowing that he would just be reborn in a couple of years. I know that, but if you help me we will. Besides, don't you want to see Naruto get the shit kicked out of him? I already told you even if I gave you all my power you'd still be slaughtered. There's nothing I can help you with, Kyubi said as he started to growl in anger. There is one thing you can do, Naruto said, pointing to the seal on Kyubi's. If I tear a little of that off it will give you more control of my body. So what? Kyubi said, starting to think that Naruto had lost her mind if she was serious about tearing the seal. Right now Sage Mode can keep Naruto from altering my direction and can get past his reflection, but none of that matters if he can reverse my blood flow from a distance. However, if my blood could change direction on someone else's order, then they could reverse Naruto's reverse. I see what you mean now, Kyubi said with a strange look in his eye. Naruto might be the master of vectors, but everything he does functions on mathematical equations. He doesn't actually tell the blood flow to go a different way, he just tells it to go the opposite way. If I control the blood flow I could force the blood to go in the opposite way as soon as I felt Naruto's vectors, and then your blood will go the correct way. That right? Naruto said, holding her hands above her head, glad she convinced the Kyubi, but the giant fox started howling in laughter she did. What's so funny? Naruto yelled. You must really have a lot of faith in that small body of yours, willing to let me control your bloodstream. What if I decided to kill you right when I get control? Kyuubi howled. I trust that you want to see Naruto defeated more than you want to kill me. Naruto said, trying to defend her position. But what about after? Not to mention the fact that the constant switch in your blood flow would be extremely painful and could possibly kill you if I'm even a second off. Kyuubi said. I'll just have to trust you then. Naruto replied. Kyuubi stopped its laughter and all become quiet. You really are a dreamer, but I don't have much to lose in this deal, so I'll help you. It's just going to hurt my pride when Naruto wipes the floor with you. Thanks for your vote of confidence, Naruto said as she walked up to the cage and tore off the corner of the seal. Hang on, I don't think that's enough, could you do a little more? Kyuubi asked. No, was Naruto's simple answer before teleporting out of her mindscape. Naruto's eyes shot open. She was in her bed staring up at the ceiling. She thought about staying like that for a little longer, but if she did she might have the chance to talk herself out of it. She put both feet on the ground and took a step towards the door. Then her body was assaulted with an incredible pain that caused her to lose her footing. The pain stooped almost instantly and all that was left was Naruto's fainted breaths. It works, Kyuubi said from within her mindscape. Naruto cursed him inside her mind and got back to her feet. Downstairs she saw Kushina, who had returned early that day. She didn't talk about her visit. Car-san, I'm going out for a little bit, Naruto said. Just be back by dinner, Kushina said, not looking away from the oven. No promises, Naruto said as she opened and shut the door to a life that she could very well not return to. Naruto was still up even though the moon had creeped into the sky a few hours ago. Fu was leaning on his shoulder fast asleep and Hanabi was resting her head on his lap. Naruto would sometimes put down his reflection if the girls wanted to snug up on him now that the threat of attack was very minimal, and it would only be down 1 or 2 seconds at the most. Naruto did not mind the girls' company. In fact, he found himself enjoying it more and more. But tonight was not the time to think about his dual lovers. It had come to Naruto a few moments ago, and just like those other strange events there was no possible way he could know, but he did. There was someone just outside who had come to beat him. Naruto was annoyed that there was still someone who would dare challenge him, but he still finished the chapter he was on before doing anything. Naruto stood up, told the girls to go back to sleep as his movement had woken him, and walked outside. Naruto guessed the person who had come to face him was just the world's biggest idiot who refused to give up. That was fine, the world was allowed to have one of them. Naruto would just crush them and go back to his peaceful life. A white carpet adorned the ground as of last night and it was desperately cold, but Naruto, wearing his thin clothes and no shoes, didn't even feel it. Naruto saw the figure waiting for him. Why was that person waiting for him? That was obvious. The figure knew that Naruto would know about their presence. When Naruto saw who it was, he let out a heavy sigh. Naruto, what are you doing here? Don't act like you don't know. I'm here to knock you out, Naruto said forcefully, her arms crossed in front of her. Knock me out, Naruto said, raising his eyebrows. You're not here to kill me. Don't tell me you still think you can force me to the leaf and everything will be just peachy. I do, Naruto said with a fire so great that it might have set the trees on fire. Naruto, however, was not touched by the heat and let out another sigh. World's biggest idiot. An instant later Naruto was directly in front of Naruto with a side kick already coming towards her head. Naruto lowered her body to avoid it, but as Naruto's leg crossed over her head, the force that should have continued on was suddenly shifted downwards. Naruto rolled out of the way just in time to see Naruto's foot crack the hard ground. Most people would have been caught off guard by that attack, since for a normal person changing the movement of their attacks so suddenly was impossible. But Naruto had done her homework and she would not be taken down by Naruto's simple calculations. This did not, however, put Naruto at a significant advantage. The Alliance had certainly been educated about Naruto too, and they still ended up smears on the earth. Naruto summoned one of her 3 clones from Mount Myoboku to active her Sage mode. Naruto's plan was simple, but she had high hopes of it working. Naruto might seem like the perfect human, but he wasn't that fast and he wasn't that strong. His vectors just make it look that way. If Naruto could just hit him with one really strong punch, like a Sage Mode punch, then it should be enough to knock him out. If this worked, Naruto would have never even gotten the chance to create his wings. Naruto looked at Naruto's new form with a hint of contempt. It was a vector he didn't know, which was already bad since he couldn't reflect it, but it was made double worse since the aura around her wasn't close to anything he knew. It looked like chakra, but there was something about it that made it fundamental different. In hindsight, it should have been obvious that Naruto would have had some way to get past his reflection, but it was still irritating. Naruto stood there as Naruto shot towards him with speed she hadn't had before. Naruto made sure to watch Naruto very closely, since observing her would lead to what vector that aura was. That was the reason Naruto only barely dodged her attack, since he wanted to be close enough to feel the technique. Naruto passed Naruto from the side, her attack missing Naruto by mere millimeters, except she was smiling. Then Naruto felt it. The punch Naruto knew he dodged hit him in the face. He was sent tumbling backwards with such force that he crashed through a tree before coming to a stop. Naruto was about ready to jump with happiness. Naruto had done exactly what she thought he would. He had been too greedy when trying to figure out her technique, and now he was paying for it. Naruto hoped that her punch had been enough to knock Naruto out, but a god wouldn't go down that easy. Naruto heard snowing being moved as Naruto got to his feet. He had blood dripping from his mouth and his forehead, but other than some dirt stains on his clothes, he looked perfectly fine, something that was strange since the tumbling he did should have given him a few scratches at the least. "I'll admit," Naruto said, brushing the snow and dirt off his clothes, "you got me good on that one, but don't think it will happen again. You see, the more you attack, the more information I get, and if your attack connects, then I get even more information, though I prefer if it didn't. The point is that attack allowed me to figure out that technique's extended range." Naruto's face twisted into anger as she saw Naruto get back up so easily. "Why are you so mad?" Naruto asked. "Oh, was that attack supposed to knock me out?" Naruto's face twisted even more as Naruto hit the jackpot. It was a valiant effort, but Tsunade tried the same thing and it didn't work. It's actually quite funny, since not too long ago that would have done the trick, but since my chakra is so dense now, it acts like armor inside my skin. That, combined with me using my vectors to lessen the amount of damage my body takes on secondary damage like tumbling and whatnot, makes me more suited to take blows like that, although, my body is still weaker than most, so I probably will clock out if you hit me with a couple more of those. Naruto rushed Naruto again. She used every kick and punch she knew, hoping Naruto would slip up and fall into her extended range, but staying true to his word, he was doing the bare minimum to dodge her attacks. All the while he was speaking in a machine-like tone. "It's definitely chakra-based. It also appears to be degrading." There was also the fact that Naruto used a clone, which leads to the conclusion that Naruto has no way to produce this chakra on her own, or she is at least not able to produce it in battle. While he was talking, 4 cyclones erupted from his back. They attacked Naruto like an extra pair of hands, but Naruto wasn't the only one who could dodge ridiculous attacks. The cyclones were fast, but they could not match Naruto in her Sage mode. She weaved in and out, trying to attack Naruto in the process. There was one thing Naruto noticed: ever since those cyclones had come out, Naruto's awareness of her extended range seemed to have lowered. There was a few close calls where Naruto had moved to dodge, but would have still been clipped by the invisible attack. Only at the last second would Naruto seem to realize and adjust for it. It wasn't strange for this to be happening. Naruto's offense and defense were based on equation. Every time he had to dodge, he would run an equation to calculate Naruto's extra range. When he was just dodging, he only had to focus on that one equation, but when he brought out cyclones, he had to split his focus to run their equations too. But even though it felt like Naruto was getting closer to hitting Naruto, she knew that Naruto could probably jumble 20+ equations and still be able to avoid all her attacks. The real question was why Naruto had decided to start attacking. Even if it was minuscule, adding any extra equation would increase the chance of being hit, so why would he risk it? He already determined that Naruto's Sage mode was on a time limit, so the best option would be focus all on evading until the time run out. Naruto tried to figure out why, but Naruto already put it into action before Naruto could get to her second theory. A cyclone came at her just like they had been, but this time when she dodged, she was hit in the stomach by another cyclone. She flew through the air, but Naruto hadn't done all that work for a simple attack. He shot towards Naruto faster than she was moving. Naruto couldn't dodge in the air, so all she could do was block as Naruto fist smashed into her crossed arms. Even with her body enhanced with Sage Mode, her bones creak at the tremendous force. Her flying speed easily tripled as she smashed through several trees before coming to a stop. Naruto's whole body was stinging as she got to her feet. Naruto's attack had made her only successful attack look like a light kick in comparison. I bet you're wondering how you got hit just then. Naruto said with all the passion of a politician. By attacking you with all those cyclones, I analyzed how you dodged, then created a database of the most likely position you would dodge to when confronted with a certain angle of attack. So I attacked you with one cyclone and then had my other three head to the top three positions you were likely to go to. It was the third most likely position, by the way. You sure do love to explaining thing. Naruto said, annoyed at what she thought of as Naruto's bragging. Information and experience are the best things you can get from any battle. When I took on the brats, I found that I rather enjoyed teaching. Naruto said, really sounding like he was lecturing. Doesn't explaining everything put you at a disadvantage? Naruto asked. Maybe if it was a jutsu with some kind of trick to it, but this is math, all I did was show my work. Naruto said. Then I'll just change my thinking and dodge somewhere I normally wouldn't. Naruto said as she charged Naruto. The cyclone came and Naruto dodged, and then she was blindsided by another cyclone. That was truly sad to watch. Did you really think you could change all those years of training and your own dodging patterns just like that? They're embedded in your body by now, they won't change just because you willed it. That was first position, by the way. Naruto said as Naruto was eating snow. Damn it, Naruto said, pulling her face out of the dirt. Stop acting so cocky. You a go. 5 minutes 9 seconds. Naruto said, cutting her off. What? 5 minutes and 9 seconds? That's how long it takes for your technique to completely degrade. Naruto looked down and realized her Sage Mode was gone. She looked back up and saw a small storm of pebbles heading her way. Without her Sage Mode, she didn't have the speed to avoid them, and they were easily going fast enough to pierce her skin. She looked for salvation and was actually able to find it in the form of a downed tree that she herself had knocked over when Naruto had punched her. Naruto dove to cover, hoping the pebbles would fly over her, which most did, but a few shot right through the fallen tree and priced Naruto's side. With blood now soaking her shirt, she fumbled through the hand sigh required to summon her clone and get her Sage Mode. Once that was done, Naruto realized how quiet it was. Naruto hadn't launched another attack even though he had more than enough time to do so. Seconds passed and Naruto realized that this was just draining her Sage Mode. She peeked over the fallen tree, then there was a bare foot in her vision, then she felt her nose break. Naruto reeled back as her nose burst with blood. Her body was enhanced with Sage Mode. If that kick was strong enough to break her nose, then she was sure it could have knocked most people's heads clean off. However, that was just the initial attack. A cyclone tried to smash into Naruto. Naruto dodged, and she did so without getting hit by one of Naruto's other three cyclones. It wasn't anything special Naruto had done, it was just that her mind had been in such a panic that she got lucky and didn't dodge into one of the three most likely places. Naruto, knowing how luckily she got, created two clones with a plan in mind. Naruto and her clones created something that she hoped could change the tide of the battle. Naruto let out a soft whistle as his sister created Rasengan and then added her wind chakra to it. It looked to be truly dangerous, and it was no less so to Naruto since Naruto had added that strange chakra to it, but Naruto wasn't worried. Naruto would still have to get in range to use it. Naruto knew this. She had no way to make absolutely sure that her Rasen Shuriken could hit. She would defiantly have to dodge his cyclone at least once, and that would lead to her possibly being hit by one of the other cyclones, but Naruto's prediction of her dodges wasn't perfect. Her two clones were no threat to Naruto since they didn't have Sage Mode, but they shared her dodge patterns. If they dodge a little before her, they would likely take up two of the top three spots. It wasn't a perfect plan since Naruto herself could easily dodge to the third most likely spot and get hit, but Naruto believed that she would change her dodge patterns based on where her clone dodged and avoid that last cyclone. If only she could create one more clone without losing her Sage Mode, but she couldn't, so she would have to put her faith in pure luck. But Naruto didn't believe in luck, and when he saw the three clones run at him, he immediately swung the odd back in his favor by create 6 more cyclone to take up the top 9 spots Naruto was likely to dodge to. His 10th cycle swung at the group sideways so all three of them would have to dodge it. Naruto paled at the sight of all those cyclones. Even with her 2 clones she would have to go against her own body and dodge somewhere that she would never do regularly, and Naruto had already proven that was impossible. Then let me dodge for you. A voice said from inside Naruto's head. Naruto felt her body move in an irregular direction and against her better judgment went along with it. The 2 clones were destroyed immediately after they dodged, but Naruto miraculously dodged to a spot that wasn't even close to the top 9. Naruto smiled with joy as she had finally broke through Naruto's defense after that initial Sage Mode strike. Her Raisin Shuriken was in range. She swung it at Naruto, but he used his cyclones to shoot himself away from Naruto, just barely avoiding the edge of the attack. That was okay because Naruto had made a mistake. He had created 10 cyclones which as previously mentioned would lower his defense, so instead of making a complex dodge that would put in safe spot from other possible situations generated from an attack, Naruto only dodged to get away from the immediate danger. So when Naruto threw her Raisin Shuriken he was caught in the danger zone with it moving too fast from him to avoid. Damn it, Naruto cursed. That thing had enough power to tear his body apart, so he would have to stop it and unfortunately there was only one way to do it. In an instant all of Naruto's cyclones disappeared and black wings exploded from his back. With speed that rivaled lightning one of the wings smacked the Raisin Shuriken into the ground. An explosion rang out as dust and rock was shot into the air. The cloud did not last long, however, as one of Naruto's wings blew it away like a giant fan. Naruto, I am truly shocked. These wings were meant to take on armies, to take on gods, but you, a single person, managed to force them out. Unfortunately for you that means this fight is over. Naruto realized what Naruto was about to do, charged forward. She charged towards those wings that had paralyzed the shinobi word. She charged towards the person who was thought to be untouchable in this form. Pain shoot through her body as the Kyuubi reversed his blood flow, then an instant later Naruto reversed back to normal, but even with that terrible pain she still ran towards that nightmare. Naruto was sure that if her attack didn't work then her mind would give in to the nightmare of the wings, and she would become paralyzed by the belief that Naruto truly was untouchable, but right now she was still able to move because at this moment she was Naruto's nightmare. That attack had a 100% success rate so defensive wasn't even considered, but Naruto had just broken that 100% and was now right in front of Naruto. Naruto stumbled backwards to avoid it, but defensive hadn't been considered, so when Naruto smashed her fist into Naruto's face, with all her power, the idea that Naruto was untouchable would be forever shattered. The ending that Naruto had won was starting to crack. Naruto's wings seemed to hiss in pain as his body was thrown to the ground so hard that it left cracks. Naruto was going to go in for another hit, but at that moment her Sage Mode ran out of juice. She jumped back a ways to summon her last clone. Meanwhile Naruto was slipping on the ground trying to get back up. Naruto's eye was swollen and his skull must have been fractured, but he still got up. How? Naruto moaned. My wings crushed an army, enslaved the cages to my will, and finally gave me peace. You should not be able to oppose me. Naruto had that piercing glare that Naruto only now realized had not been present before. Naruto quickly dodged the wings as they tried to crush her. Naruto appeared to have given up on predicting her dodges and was going for pure speed, and indeed the wings were insanely fast. Naruto's Sage Mode was barely keeping her from being skewered, but that also meant that Naruto was leaving himself wide open. Naruto charged at her brother, determined that one more punch would end it. Naruto must have really lost it since he didn't even seem to register that Naruto was getting closer. Naruto brought her right arm back and thrust it forward, but just before it made contact with Naruto he held his hand out like he was going to grab her fist, then, her wrist snapped. At that moment the battle stopped. The furious black wings were now swaying calmly. All that was left was a smile that seemed to cut Naruto's face in half. It was a smile that denied everything Naruto had worked up to, a smile that assured Naruto's ending would stay. I figure it out, were the only words that escaped through the gaps of that smile. Naruto was shot into the air and spun around like a yo-yo. It was as if an invisible hand was grabbing her leg. She was going so fast that it wouldn't be long before she puked. Unluckily for her the ride was brought to a sudden halt with the ground. Her ribcage shattered and a soundless cry was let out before she was thrown back into the air. Naruto, who was in such pain, still awed at the beautiful landscape from so high up, and it gave her a sort of peace as she was free falling in the wrong direction. The moment was all too short as the invisible hand grabbed her leg once more and Naruto was sent plummeting to the earth. When she hit that cold hard ground, vision to her left eye cut out as her eye socket collapsed. Naruto was battered beyond belief. Even if she had the strength to get up, the pressure that Naruto's vectors were using to pin her to the ground would have been enough to stop a cage from moving. The invisible hands rolled her on her back and tilted her head up slightly so she could see Naruto walking towards her. He had a ball of plasma in his hand. His wings were swinging lazily behind him as their physical power was not needed. He was not, however, the untouchable god he was before. He was stumbling quite a bit and his eyes had lost their pierce. They were now filled with the spastic movements of a madman. It was a testament to how far Naruto had pushed him, but none of it mattered now. This fight was over. "Kit, we still might have one last trick we can pull," Kyuubi said. "And what would that be?" Naruto thought sarcastically. "I'll add my demonic chakra to your sage chakra. I don't know what will happen and it's very possible that you'll lose the strength given to you by your nature chakra, but it will create an entirely new type of chakra that will free you from Naruto's vectors," Kyuubi said, sounding somehow passionate about this fight. "That sound nice, Kyuubi, but the only reason nature chakra worked for so long was because Naruto had no idea how it worked. If we just combine two chakras, he already knows he'll figure out the vectors immediately." Not immediately. No matter how familiar Naruto is with the two chakras, there will still be a delay until Naruto can analyze both their properties together. Even if it's only a few seconds, we can still attack. "Wow, Kyuubi, I thought you didn't care how this fight ended." Naruto thought. "Things have changed. You showed me that this bastard can be beaten, and now that we're so close, I don't want to see it end with him smiling." Kyuubi screamed for the first time in its life. "Even if I could leave Naruto's vectors for a moment, I'm still too weak to stand." "Then I'll help you. You gave me a little bit of control of your body, I can move you a little, but it will all be pointless if you don't try to." Naruto was nearly on top of them when Naruto spoke up. "Fine, let's do it." Suddenly the chakra around Naruto took on a slightly red tint and Naruto felt himself lose control of her. "So you've enlisted the help of the Kyuubi. Hate to say it, but this will only prolong your life a little longer," Naruto said, and immediately started to break down Naruto's new combination by combing his own equations. With an unreal sense of pain, Naruto made it to her feet. Then, like a robot, she held her left hand out and started forming a Rasengan. Then it turned into a Raisin Shuriken. She did not use clones, but she hadn't made the Raisin Shuriken by herself, she had the help of a friend. Then after a little of the newly formed chakra was added, Naruto ran with all her strength. Her joints screamed in protest, blood oozed from her body even faster, and the feeling of vomit was creeping up her throat. The Kyuubi's power was the only thing keeping her on 2 feet, but Naruto would not drop now. Naruto was already halfway through when Naruto started her change. Naruto wouldn't finish in time, so something had to be done. Naruto held up his own sphere of destruction and ran towards his sister. Her new chakra splice was a pathetic technique that Naruto was positive he could crush with his plasma. This new chakra was weak. It had now battle ability, it drained energy way faster than normal, and it was hard to use, yet Naruto had faith that her weak retort could go against Naruto's strongest creation. The two siblings clashed and an earth-shattering noise rang out. The crater wasn't nearly as large as it should have been. Naruto realized, as she was once again on her back, her sage mode and left arm gone, but the destruction was not nearly enough to match the power. The snow on the edge wasn't even melted, which could only mean one thing. Naruto had used his vectors to contain the damage done to his yard. Then the devil appeared as he moved from the left side of Naruto to the right. Naruto's wings were gone, disbanded after they were no longer needed, but the fear hadn't left. Naruto was unscathed from their exchange, and the murderous look in his eyes had taken on a whole new appearance as his hair was plastered to his face, letting Naruto only see slits of red. He walked towards her, prepared to end something that should have never lasted this long. Naruto had no more tricks left to play, all she could do was wait. She was very tired and could barely keep her eyes open. Maybe she would fall asleep and be spared seeing her death. In the end she did choose to shut her eyes. It was dark but peaceful. Naruto had no way of knowing if she was still alive and this was just dream or if this was the afterlife. It didn't matter either way, if she wasn't dead she soon would be. There was nothing but darkness, so there was nothing Naruto could really do but think over her life. It had its up and downs, but Naruto was satisfied. She had made amends with her family and had gotten Mito back. She had, or at least felt she had, helped people across her ninja journey. She also had fair share of regrets. She cursed herself for chasing Mito away in the first place. She cried for all the friends she couldn't save, and her biggest regret, although it might have been biased since it happened so recently, was losing to Naruto. Naruto guessed she shouldn't complain, winning had always been an unattainable dream. But she had gotten so close, closer than anyone ever had, and she should be content with that. But are you? A voice whisper from nowhere. What? Naruto said as she frantically scanned the horizon. Are you really okay with losing? Of course not, but what else was there to do? I lost, end of story. I tried my hardest, but Naruto really is unstoppable. Is he really unstoppable? Did you really lose? Did you truly try everything? Exhausted every last option? Yes, Naruto said weakly, but this voice had cast a shadow of doubt. What if there was something she could have done? She thought back to those very last moment. The pain of losing her left arm. The devil walking towards her. The way his hair was blown back into his face to show her those red slits of death. The wind. The wind shouldn't have been blowing his hair. His reflection should have stopped it. Something was wrong with his vector control those last few seconds. Exactly, the voice said, having heard her thought. Then there's still a chance. Naruto said, her face lighting up like a Christmas tree, but suddenly the lights went out. But what if it's already too late? What if I'm already dead? Try to open your eyes and find out. I'm scared. Don't be. The worst that can happen is you'll still be here. That wasn't what Naruto was scared of. But in the end she took the voice's advice and closed her eyes to try and open them in the real world. Right before she opened them she realized whose voice that had been and felt stupid for not recognizing it. Thank you, she whispered. She opened her eyes and she was back where she was, and miraculously no time had passed. She was still in horrible pain, but it didn't seem to matter anymore because she could see the things she hadn't noticed before. The way Naruto's clothes were moving with the wind. The way the crater she was in was serrated as the edge, like Naruto's power had become unstable, but the most important thing she noticed was how Naruto didn't notice these things. All his attention was focused on Naruto. He didn't even realize he was shaken because of the cold. He had no idea his ultimate defense was malfunctioning. But why was his reflection not working? It was because of Naruto's Raisin Shuriken. It didn't hit Naruto directly, but it had the power to damage cells on the micro level. It must have damaged the chakra cells on Naruto's right side, which in turn screwed up his equations and shut down his reflection. However, all this would have been worthless if Naruto had realized. Normally repairing damaged cells would have been impossible, but Naruto had only lost his reflection since it used all of his chakra system. In theory, Naruto still had the power to control vectors on his left side, and his vector control could work on the micro level to fix the damaged cells. In the end, Naruto could grasp victory due to sacrificing her left arm and being incredibly lucky that she had pissed Naruto off so much that he couldn't tell the damage to his own body. This was not something that Naruto could ever recreate. The stars had aligned to give Naruto this chance at victory, and she'd be damned if she threw it away. Naruto didn't have the strength to stand, so she pushed off the ground, sending incredible pain through her body. She was more or less falling towards Naruto with her arm behind her ready to punch. Naruto gave a slight chuckle at her last attempted. Her arm was moving so slow and had no force behind it, it could hardly be called a punch. All Naruto had to do was move his head slightly and Naruto's arm went over his shoulder. If Naruto had just stood there and taken the punch, believing his reflection was still active, then he would have won that day, but for whatever reason fate had favored Naruto that day. With a broken wrist, Naruto would have hardly been able to build up enough strength to knock Naruto out, but when Naruto dodged, she walked her arm around Naruto's shoulder to give her the needed support to even stand. Naruto's face froze as he realized that his reflection was down, but at that point there was nothing he could do. With Naruto supporting her body, Naruto brought her head back and let out a scream that must have sounded like pure freedom to anyone who heard it. Naruto forehead smashed into the bridge of Naruto's nose. His eyes rolled back as blood burst from his nose and both he and Naruto fell to the ground. Naruto listened for anything, fully expecting Naruto to get back to his feet and crushing the last hope she had, but it never happened. Naruto was out cold. Once Naruto realized this, she let out a sound that was the closest thing that could resemble joy in her state. It was possible Naruto could be beat. Sure, an unbelievable amount of luck and coincidence had to happen, but it was possible. Even with her body beaten and torn apart, Naruto couldn't be happier, until she felt cold hard metal touch her neck. In her excitement, Naruto had forgotten something very important. I never thought anyone would actually be able to beat Naruto, but look at this, you actually did. I beat that. You were having a celebration ready to announce to the world that Naruto was down for the count. That would be really bad for us if you did that. Luckily no one will ever have to know. I'll just kill you and Naruto can take the credit. History books will just write you off as the last fool who dared to challenge God. Sugetsu pulled his sword back, ready to slice off Naruto's head. Naruto could help but cry. Everything she had done was about to be lost to history. As the sword came down, Naruto prayed that someone would figure out the truth. She didn't care if she survived, but there were others who did. Just before the sword cut the soft flesh of her neck, a golden chain stopped it. Naruto looked with her one good eye to see her sister, mother, Jiraiya and Kakashi all standing there. Don't worry Naruto, we'll take care of the foot soldiers, Minima said with a great big smile as she saw Naruto lying on the ground. Naruto couldn't believe they were here, but she couldn't do anything else than offer her own smile of gratitude. Then she promptly passed out. He had lost. That was the first thing Naruto realized when he woke up in a cell with so many chakra seals on him. It may have all been a second set of clothes. All Naruto could do was think, since all the prisoners' whispers had vanished the minute they realized he was awake. Naruto had been beaten, that much was fact. People could argue that it was all luck, and it was true he had made blunders that lead to her victory, but no matter how many mistakes he made, Naruto would have never won if she didn't have the skill, the plan, and the determination. What Naruto was thinking about wasn't the fight itself but how he should react to his lose, and the strange part was he didn't care. He had killed hundreds of people, destroyed the Akatsuki, and created a plan to become God also he wouldn't lose. One would think he would be smashing his head against the wall, but Naruto wasn't. He had lost, but he didn't feel any different. What had he been so afraid of? Naruto would have to do some more thinking before he found the answer, but before he could do that, one of the prisoners finally opened his mouth. Are you really a god? Naruto gave a soft chuckle. That was an answer he had only found out recently. Don't be ridiculous. No human could ever become a god. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.